I'm trying to
How
make
was
sure
that?
everything's off. I'm like, okay, make sure everything's off so that, I'm not getting any phone calls or anything. But how are you, ma'am?
I am excellent. I haven't been feeling my best. So today is great because there's no pain, there's no I'm excited. It's like everybody knows what it's like when you first like get over not feeling well and that first
Yeah.
few days you're like, I'm a superhero.
Let me tell you, when I used to have like regular, like when my asthma was like very poorly controlled and I couldn't do anything, the moment I got some antibiotics or steroids, it was like a real roid rage. Like, let's do this. And I would be off to the races or whatever. Listen.
Saying my fiance is like, are you good? I'm like, I'm awesome. Like, makes zero sense. No sense.
Let's power wash the house right now. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing? Go to bed.
I'm ready. I am ready. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been good because the balance, I know when I've gone too far because the face just gets more concerned. But yeah, no, I feel good though.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. So hey Janai, hey Jocelyn. Well, I want to say thank you because I had a really great conversation with you during this episode, and I just thought that it was a very necessary conversation, especially in the climate that we're in. We can never have this conversation enough because there's still people who are kind of in that sense of, wait, I can say these things, or I'm able to protect this part of me, or I don't have to give up all of these things. So I think the conversation was very much needed. It'll always be needed. And I'm grateful that we were able to have it. Can you reintroduce yourself to some of the audience who, so that they can know you?
Yes. Well, number one, I commend you for having the conversation. Some people don't realize how big of a first step that is, and it really does matter. My name is Kathryn. I'm the proud owner of House of Bawdy. House of Bawdy is an adult novelties company that centers and celebrates the wellness and pleasures of Black people, people of color, queer folks, and people of marginalized genders. I have been selling adult novelties for I think we're nearly on like year 5 now. Time flies. But
Wow.
even in the awesome capacities I was doing that in before House of Bawdy, I was meeting awesome people, I was making cool connections. I was still frustrated because I didn't see people like me, or didn't see them that often, or at the value that I thought that they deserved. Other Black folks, other women of various intersections, other queer folks. I grew up in a Muslim family, and I didn't see that in adult industries or adult adjacent industries, or at least not being represented fairly positively in a more whole fashion. So in classic bump this, I'll do it myself, that really I think is a theme amongst people of color, especially women, I did it myself. I kind of made this bubble that is supposed to feel like folks coming home to explore these senses of themselves that they might not have felt as though there was proper access to, or these kind of wellness lessons, or even just like permission to explore your pleasure in these ways happen in culturally relevant senses. So that's what I do. That's House of Bawdy.
I mean, that's great. I didn't know that it had been 5 years. That's amazing. I'm gonna back us up just a little bit, just so that when the comments come in, they're not like cutting us off. I just looked at that for a second.
You got
Hey Kayla, welcome. This is my co-host. The three, Janai, Jocelyn, and Kayla, are all my sisters. So thank you all for being here. So one of the things that we talked about was the one of the, especially like one of the parts that a lot of people reacted to was the conversation that you had with was it your coworker or supervisor, where you had to establish that, listen, this
Yeah.
may not be on purpose, but I need you to back up off me.
Yeah, pretty much. What's interesting is I might have said it in the actual episode. It's not the first time I've had that conversation.
Right.
I feel like it's not the first time so many people have those kind of conversations or want to, and they might not feel as though they have like the tools or the permission or the bravery to be able to do so. It's frustrating. Yeah, so I was at work. In the joy that is the hospitality restaurant industry, which has its own underbelly of like, as it pertains to like body autonomy and sexual harassment and protection and all those things.
Yeah.
Its own animal. And there were two different instances, but the one that I referenced was actually a subordinate of mine managing, and a subordinate of mine.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. The way okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, entitlement doesn't know other people's titles. So, yeah, one of my subordinates actually has a thing, or had, with casual touch. I could tell it was habitual for him, but I didn't need COVID to teach me 6 feet of space. Like, that was always my thing.
Right.
6 feet, the better. Back up. So I let him know, as you know, he, again, hands on shoulders. I'm like, hey, I get that this is a habit for you. I get that you probably aren't really thinking about it, but I don't like it. Like, it's a particular space protection for me. Granted, I understand I'm in a restaurant. There's going to be bumping into, there's going to be accidents, there's going to be tight spaces. I'm reasonable. But if we're here in all of this open space, I shouldn't have to anticipate you crossing my bubble. Like, that shouldn't happen.
Right.
And I got like a lashing out response. I got a, well, what are you trying to say? I'm not trying to substitute you. You can't say stuff like that. What is supposed to be going on? I'm like, wow, that's not necessary when I say you're not allowed to touch me when it is unnecessary. That should not be the response. But it was, and it's so common and it's so frustrating, because it's not a conversation I hear it's not a conversation I hear men having to deal with, having to navigate as regularly. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. It definitely does, and it's definitely not spoken on in the ways that it should. But there is a commonality there as to who keeps having to have these conversations.
And I think these conversations are very necessary to have. I mean, there were so many instances that I saw on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, where there was, instances where women are having to explain, like, they'll make a statement, and it's a statement that people who don't necessarily have like the social power don't understand how those without it have to protect themselves.
Yeah.
So why do you carry your keys in this way? Why do you feel like you need a taser? Why do you feel like you need a gun? Why do you feel like you need to carry a pocket knife? Or why are there fighting tools or defensive tools, hidden in your compact, in your makeup bag or your purse or whatever, right? Yeah. But there was one video that I saw where this girl, she is like crying because another woman recognized the woman. She was leaving a coffee shop and she was walking with her keys in her hand. And this other woman was with a group of guys. The group of guys were walking a little too close to the other woman they didn't know. And she was like, hey guys, let's hang back, because if you look at her body language, she's uncomfortable. Even though and they're just like oblivious. What do you mean? What are you talking about? We're just going she doesn't know that. Yeah. And so I think that being able to have that conversation and, being able to, even if you can't in that moment state, your presence is making me uncomfortable. Like, being able to have someone else there, like, hey, like, let me explain this to you. Let me have this conversation. But I don't think that's a conversation that guys typically have with each other. Like you said, But which brings us to our first question, and this is not just women, because this is men as well. You know,
Mhm.
how do you protect your personal space physically, like in your person? Do you speak up? Do you create distance? Are you non-confrontational and just let it happen, whatever's going to happen, whether it be a semi crowded elevator, getting on the train, getting to the plane, because we know people just act like they don't understand personal space. Real quick, before y'all start answering, let me get into the comments. We have Honey T, this is another sister of mine. Hey, and our other account, really TT. Hey, boss lady Denise, how you doing? My aunt's here. Hey, Auntie Lynetta. Let's
We got
see.
aunties in the house. I love
Oh, of course. Everybody just sending hearts back and forth. I love it. I love it. So we so we get into this mindset of, and you touched on it earlier,
it. Mhm.
is giving ourselves permission. And people don't people that I've talked to who haven't gone to therapy don't really understand what it is to give yourself permission to feel, think, do, act, whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
they're not really, well, no, I do what I want. And it's like, okay, but you have to give yourself permission. Otherwise, there's a holdback where if you don't give yourself permission to feel sad in this moment because something bad happened, or be able to, celebrate your past accomplishments, even though you haven't reached your ultimate goal, you've made some progress. So allow yourself some time to,
Yeah.
look back and all that kind of stuff. And they think about it in a sense of, well, I'm not a child. And it's like, as an adult, you're always parenting yourself.
Yeah.
You're always like, there's always a parenting process. But I think sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to say, I have a right to my body, you don't, so I need to do what I can to protect this. So
Absolutely.
how do you protect your physical space, your personal physical space?
So I think that the answer is different now, but why it's different um, kind of adds meat to it. So personally, I didn't always feel like I could or knew how or had those kind of concepts that you're talking about. This like permission outside of somehow having to like know how to fight, somehow having to know how to like physically react if there's something egregious that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And which also gave me a whole lot of anxiousness when I was little, because I'm just like, I'm not like a boxer. Like, how does this work if there's something wild that goes down?
Right.
Like this sense of hyper independence that's always just been present with me, where I'm just like, well, the solution can't be someone else. What happens when there is a no one else? That's a problem. Um,
Right.
being that kind of concept being bolstered, like my father is like as an army vet. Like he's not going to have his daughter just walking around hoping somebody's going to rescue the day if something happens. Like that's just not how
Right.
my household works. So now I think I'm most comfortable defending my physical space, similarly to the whole workplace situation, with value. And I give myself permission to do that because I've been in too many situations where somebody else wasn't brave enough to speak up for themselves. And I don't consider myself some kind of like superhero. However, I know that I've got a lot more nerve than some other folks. And if I say something, it might help to protect someone else. And I exercise that most often and most uncomfortably, actually, in a professional environment, because I have to figure out a way to be able to voice an opinion and to
Mm-hmm.
defend myself in at least, verbally, without kind of ruffling the feathers of some of the other people that might be bearing witness to what defense can look like. Should I
Mm.
have to edit myself to be professional when I'm defending myself? No. Is that the reality that I'm dealing with? Yes. Especially because, like, in the restaurant that I was referring to, for instance, or all of the time I've been in the hospitality industry, I'm typically the one of the very few women,
Mm-hmm.
few women in charge, fewer Black women in charge. And up until a few years ago, generally the youngest. So I've got to make sure that however I'm choosing to express disdain, defend myself, stand up for someone else, establish rules and regulations, defend said rules and regulations, I have to do so in a way that has the prettiest bow on top, because there's too many other reasons to attempt to discredit me. So that is how I've learned to Olivia Pope my way through defending myself, is somehow doing it in this like respectable, classy way that I think honestly is bull. Like, I think I shouldn't have to jump through all of these hoops when that person doesn't know if I was emotionally triggered. That person doesn't know if I'm in the middle of an anxiety attack. That person doesn't know if everything in me wants to freeze or break down or cry or scream or, lash out if I had a violent moment happen to me in my past. But somehow I've got to bottle that and make it so that I can present it in a fashion that I can get a favorable response. So personally, how I protect my physical space, I do so verbally and I do so without apology. And that's the level of permission I've given myself. And for some reason, it translates to me as someone else needs this, because I've seen so many instances where someone else just needed somebody to say something so that at least if there wasn't a solution, there was discomfort to stand on top of for the next time.
Right. There. Oh, girl, so many good things. So many good things you just said. It is frustrating that we have to exercise some positive diplomacy when we are trying to express ourselves and not be seen as emotional or not be seen as accusatory, or they're because they're just looking for any piece of any little thing to say, oh, you're on your period. Oh, you just got broken up with. Oh, you can't handle the job because you're too emotional, or you're too this, or you're not enough that. And it's like, I just asked you not to put your hands on me. That's all I did. All I said was mind your space. That's all I said was mind your space. It's all like, and for him to escalate in this situation particularly, and it happens a lot. I'm not trying to have sex with you. Well, okay, either because that's your guilty conscience speaking right there. Nobody said that.
I never said that.
Literally just said respect my space.
Yeah. It already bugged me that I had to start with empathy. Immediate response was to soften the blow that I knew was probably going to be coming, because I'd worked with him for a long time. So I started with, look, I understand this is probably habitual for you. I understand you might not mean anything by it. However, like, I already made the cute version for you. And that's where my defensive-ness comes up, is that moment after. Because your reaction to that determines whether or not you're going to get a "I appreciate it, thank you," or a "Who are you talking to?" Like, this can go either way, but like, you get to determine what that looks like.
Let me get you right, because you didn't understand me the first time. I was trying to be nice, but now no. Ooh, okay, y'all are talking a lot in the comments. Let me hold on just a second. Let me find out where I left off. Okay, so Janae says, I absolutely don't let anyone in my bubble. If they're too close, I'll step back first, then verbally respond if necessary. That I actually learned in college, because I had people who were close talkers. Yeah. And I was like, okay, nobody else is in this. Why are you so close to my person? Like, let's get some space so you can understand. There was a teacher, I literally had to hold my hand out because she's shorter than me. But she would just walk up and just, well, I'm trying to tell, and I'm trying to, no. Yeah. Read body language. Hey, Connie, listen, give me 3 feet. This is all I need is 3 feet.
Which is interesting, because I did learn, but then there's a caveat to it. I did learn that there can sometimes be a shift when, yes, you create like some actual physical space, and then turn your head or turn your shoulders, because people are trained that this is where my attention is. So if I shifted, then you have to actually work to be in the train of my attention again and might actually edit your behavior. The problem with this, in my personal experience, is that non-men typically find themselves more receptive to that shift in someone's body language because there's this empathy that we're taught to be hypersensitive to. I step away and shift my shoulders, men don't care. Like, in my experience, like, that's not, then I gotta say something. But then it matters how I say it and all of this crap. But
because you got to protect the ego before your defense actually comes into play.
Yeah, I completely relate to making like some physical space between you and the other person, and then shifting that kind of body language that we're taught, is like ingrained to us, that I know you're paying attention to me because like your head and your shoulders are here.
Right.
I back up and I'm like, whoa. Now there's like this standoffishness that might you find offense to it? Yes. Are you actually away from me now? Also possibly.
Yes, I would also. Aunt Lynetta says, loving the topic. Oh, thank you. It's needed. It's needed. Really TT says, I love and appreciate my personal space. But the question is, I believe it's how do you protect it? Yes, how do you protect it though? That's the question. How are you protecting it? Because everybody loves having their own time, their own space, in my own little corner, in my own little chair. It just
that don't seem overtly offensive to force that physical space that was referred to earlier. Like if we're in a crowded space, I'll like put all my stuff around me. So like now there's like this actual physical barrier between you and me. And I'm very comfortable with all the dirty looks that gets me. I've been in like public transportation, for instance, and I'll like put my stuff, I'll like, here's the wall, and then I'll sit not that close to the wall, and then I'll put my stuff here, and then I'll situate myself back in the middle and look like, here we are. This is my
I mean, because again, I don't know if you could have a panic attack at any given time. You don't know if I'm going through a state. You don't know what's happening. So you could be mad about not having a seat for the next 10, 15 minutes on the train, but you could have also saved yourself from having a very bad day.
We all could have had a worse day.
Listen.
It's too crowded, and it seems like it's actually a rude thing for me to do, to like actually take up so much extra space. I will sit in a fashion that like, I mean, people do it all the time. They'll sit with like their legs splayed all open, or with their arms crossed, or some kind of way to make it, it's natural-ish. Like animals do it in the wild. Like they spread their feathers, they poke their pines, they do something that alerts everyone else that there is a problem, can be a problem, or they're trying to prevent a problem. But somehow humans think that they're above that natural animal interaction, and that makes zero sense to me. If I am like this big and I'm trying to seem bigger, there's something worth paying attention to here.
Right. Not move your stuff. Ooh, first of all,
yeah,
I'm trying to save you. Okay, I'm trying to save you.
Headphones that aren't saying anything. Queen of the headphones. You can ask me to move my stuff. I can't hear you.
Yes, I will absolutely wear earphones, but there is nothing being played right now. I just don't want you to bother me, but I'm aware of everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
Let's see. KK says, I still don't understand as to why we have to even say this is my body, don't touch me.
And I think that what's interesting is you would think that you don't have to say that, but we're in a world, in a country where historically our bodies have not belonged to us. So of course it's foreign, because those kinds of levels of respect aren't being taught when there was no like start to them. That people of color, that Black folks, that Black women very specifically were always in the history of this country treated as if our bodies were not something that we had autonomy over, didn't have permission to, didn't know well enough how to, and so on and so forth. So just because we add 400 years doesn't mean that there's been a history of teaching other people that there's nothing wrong with me defending my personal space, or not having to get to a point where I defend my personal space, because there is still this concept of, well, what do you mean? I already belong here. So therefore I can't be displaced. So therefore you're in the way. So why are you being a problem?
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of unlearning that has to happen where because we went from being property and fetishized to being property and fetishized to semi autonomy, but still being fetishized. And even now, with the blackfishing that's going on, especially on social media, you think of Rachel Dolezal and others who have not been called out yet. But we have so many instances where we didn't necessarily even if you think about growing up, there's a lot of kids, especially when I worked in daycare, go hug title name,
Yeah.
where it's a situation where even the parents are like, no, I tell you what to do with your body. And
Yeah.
if you don't give yourself permission to say, look, this is my body, and you have to train people around you to respect it. No, I don't want to be touched, or I will tell you when I want to be touched.
Yeah.
I will ask you for permission and give you permission in exchange. Like that's what it is. And it's not like a big thing because people are going to take this out of context. You don't need to like pull out a rule book and have some kind of like 100-page contract to sign with a person, but there are social contracts that you have with people where you're okay to engage physically or otherwise, where it's not a situation of I need to protect myself against you because I don't know you, as opposed to somebody saying, well, I'm gonna do what I want. Those are the same people who walk up to you and be like, oh, what's going on with your, don't touch my hair, I'm not an ant, stop trying to pet me.
Yeah.
Because they do the same thing to the dogs in the park. I'm just, oh,
Yeah.
don't touch my hair.
That because that's consent. That's the core of how consent works, and that's one mini silver lining that I appreciated that comes with COVID is that people now have to think or have had to navigate what consent looks like for every single body.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
people who had the ability to be loud about it, but every single person, children, folks that might not have been able to advocate for themselves, for older folks, for women, for people who don't identify as women, like all across the board, people now are concerned about it and concerned about it in like a personal sense of safety. And now all of a sudden everybody understands how consent works.
Listen.
I appreciated the crash course COVID. Thanks.
Oh, my dad's here. Hey, Dad. Let's see. Hennessy says, I have opted out of certain things and learned to be okay with it if it taps into my personal space. Yes, absolutely. Jocelyn says, the look on my face tells people not to get
Yeah, that look
Listen,
is the real thing.
Death glare, everybody. Death glare.
And what's interesting is like I think I saw a TikTok about a very similar topic that people can call that look like as soon as necessary. They were like 1, 2, 3, and everybody just like did it. And it's interesting that we know what that is. We can just recall it at the drop of a hat. People who see that video are like, oh yeah. But yet these instances are still so wildly common. Like so
Right.
You do understand the social contract, you just don't care. All right. That's the difference now.
Yeah, there's this sense of I intend on doing something, and regardless of how you feel about it, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
and it's no, because there's two people, so there's two voices that need to agree on a certain thing in order for it to happen. No, it's just you need to understand that. Like that's not how it is. Janae says that used to work for me until I started wearing masks. And let's see, Jocelyn says, talk with your eyes. We can be very expressive with our eyes. We know this. We know this. I feel like a lot of times people don't really get into, because it's a habit, it's a learned behavior, to try to speak up more for themselves or be in a position where they are comfortable or confident in saying that, okay, I don't want to be a confrontational person, but I really don't want this person in my space.
I think that that's something that people also have to self-investigate. Not
Mm,
all confrontation is bad. Not all communication is confrontation, and not all confrontation is bad. And in that same kind of vein, not all anger is bad either. All of these things teach us where a boundary is. All of these things
mm-hmm.
teach us what is important to us, what's worth defending. And sometimes when people say that, oh, I don't want to be confrontational, you're also saying that something that you felt was worth defending is somehow worth less than the person
Yes.
who is choosing to take a liberty that you did not like. So I'm not by any means saying that it is easy to make these kinds of shifts or easy to defend yourself physically or even socially safe to do so in every single instance. I'm definitely not saying that. However, the need for people to want to be nice can sometimes get yourself in more of a hurt for yourself than a help.
Not even nice, but just to I don't want to deal with it. Like I just want it to go away. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to do. And it's like no. I don't know if anybody has ever told you or if you've ever heard because you have breath in your body and you felt negative about a situation, it is absolutely worth you speaking up for. It is absolutely worth you establishing boundaries. And I feel that sometimes when I talk to people, it's kind of disheartening because I want people, regardless of who you are, to be comfortable enough to say, I don't want to be treated XYZ way,
Yeah.
or I would prefer to be talked to in this manner. This helps me to understand this. And really establishing those boundaries early and establishing them often because people are going to try to hop the fence all the time. People are always going to try to hop the fence.
And sometimes, very rarely, and this is by no means me advocating for it because I made that clear how I feel about it earlier. Sometimes that hopping the fence isn't always egregious. Like sometimes people are just operating how they, just like the people walking on the sidewalk. The group of men are just like existing because
Yeah.
there's nothing that's ever in their way to do so. So sometimes there isn't just like automatic, well, of course you're trying to put me in danger. Of course you want me to feel this way. However, I appreciate the other person on the sidewalk who's just like, hey, so what we're going to do, take a little step back here. So there is that. Now, I'm not saying that this gives people permission to like test the waters and see how far somebody's boundaries go or see how close you can get till somebody flips out. Please don't be that person.
Absolutely not.
But do understand that sometimes there is this there is a way in which other people operate in the world where maybe they haven't been checked on it before, maybe they did not know. However, when you know better, do better.
Yeah, and while I agree that it's important to teach people how you want to be treated, and it starts with you. So if you treat yourself like it's okay, use me how you need me, and then I'll worry about myself at a later date. Because you treat yourself that way, other people are going to treat you that way. But also, just like what's the lady's name? Ozzy Osbourne's wife,
Oh,
Sharon Osbourne, was telling and I'm forgetting everybody's name, Cheryl Underwood, don't cry, just tell me what teach me the whole thing. And it's like, it is not your job to
yeah.
teach people the history of what they think or what they said or what they did, why it was wrong in the context of the world.
I love, and this is complete sarcasm, how people want so many free things and then never want to use the free resources when it's time to do them. Everybody wants somebody to work for free. Everybody wants somebody to give something for free. Everybody wants a discount. Okay. However, when it is now necessary for you to employ those same tactics to make you a better person, it's too much work.
I've been like this for so long. I just can't change. There's no possible way. I cannot do. What do you mean?
Oh,
What are you talking about? What are we talking about here, guys? What are we doing? How are you in this space saying that you're so oblivious to the words of other people or the actions of other people, and you can't understand how it ties back to racism or what they said or how they like it just and then just teach me, tell me, no, it's not, it is not my job to teach you.
And like, I've been doing this all my life. I have looked like this all my life. I have been existing like this all my life. But somehow in the space of like 15 minutes, I'm supposed to get you up to speed. Like
Listen,
am uncomfortable with this work sometimes. I am uncomfortable being me sometimes. I'm not about to make this easier for you. For what? For free?
what?
I think not.
If we need Papa, listen, okay.
What happened with the pizza man?
He's been trying to get the N word out of his system for something crazy like 20 months or something like that. Was it 10 or 20 months? It was something ridiculous, but he just can't get it out of his system.
Wait, I don't understand. Is it like a bacteria? You just stop. Like, it's not like, you know,
it's too good. It tastes too nice. It's better than the butter garlic pizza crust. Like, I can't just get it out of my system.
Get it out of my system.
I listen.
Like flush? Like, what do you mean? What is that?
I don't know. Like, I get so frustrated when like even when Delroy Lindo was called the guy out, he was like, why is it that black people can use the N-word and I can't? And Delroy Lindo says, say it. Come on, I'll say it with you. And I was like, listen, go ahead. Well, why can't I say, listen, it is not my job to teach you. What do you think this is?
I will teach you right now. That is such a gangster, so I'm doing that the next time. I'm glad I know how to solid.
Oh my gosh. I don't get it. I really
right in the face. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna lose all my jewelry. Say it.
Go ahead. Say it. Like what is it that why? It's just that entitlement. Like, why do you need to say it? Why do you need to take and commodify everything of someone else's? Like, take their entire culture and commodify it and then get mad when you're excluded from different parts of it, like it's yours.
That a culture of theirs didn't exist. Because that's the part about appropriation that always gets to me. You told me that this thing didn't exist, that there was no such thing as being me, that there was no such thing as being me without you, that there was no such thing as a sense of community and whomever it is I know to be, that I have had to redefine for myself because it was historically taken from me. And now it's cute to make a caricature of it after you told me there was no such thing.
But then all your daughters and your sons start trying to be like us, and it's so sad. Oh, it's so sad. It's so sad.
Yeah, I'm not doing
But there was another part of the conversation that we talked about, and it was just the importance of it was brought up about Chloe and Halle. Is it Haley or Halle?
I don't
know. Okay, the sisters. When Halle was lighting sage in her room, in her t-shirt, and people were upset because she was on her phone. That she pays the bills for. I'm pretty sure she pays. I don't think they pay her bills. I'm pretty sure of that. But there was but in that conversation, it was about how we as people learn to be confident in not just our beings as not just in our sexual being, but just being people. How we grow and maintain that confidence. So, which is our next question. What brings you confidence and how is that displayed? A lot of my confidence is through achievements and like epiphanies. Like, oh,
I'm
I
awesome.
didn't realize that. What? That's I could wear that like a badge of honor. That's good. That's good. I like that.
Look at me, go star.
Right, right. For the whole day. Listen.
Confidence. Um, it's a the why behind this, I think, is a combo answer. Might be a future therapy topic. I don't know. Her and I'll talk, but I think that things that have historically brought me confidence are also things I attach to personal sense of achievement. Is also kind of attached to the fact that like I grew up with competitive brothers. Like if I can do something better than you, you better believe I'm confident about it. Like if I can win, I am confident about it. So yeah, there's a little bit of like ego there in whatever the thing is. But I also it's also kind of morphed into things that I've learned to be proud of that I wasn't previously.
Mm,
I wasn't always proud of my hair. I wasn't always proud of my body in other ways. I wasn't always proud of the way that I spoke. I wasn't always proud of how my skin looked next to other Black people, which is interesting, but just I've never felt like my skin in and of itself next to whiteness was somehow wrong. Like that's just not how it happened. There was always a sense of pride since I was younger, like that my parents taught. So I always was able to step out into the world. And if somebody was just like, "Ooh, you're Black," I'd be like, "It's lit, right?" But, but like, I somehow didn't think that like my skin wasn't as pretty as other people's, or my hair wasn't as pretty as other people's. And then there has to be like this learning, right, or an unlearning. And so I realize that there are aspects about me that other people covet. And it started purely out of vanity. If we take my hair, for instance, or we take my skin, for instance, purely out of vanity, this wild baselessness that really you can't build true foundation on, but sometimes you got to start somewhere. And when you're
listen.
vanity is a solid place to start. And I'm like, oh, these people want this curliness. These people want this kind of ability for like summertime to be my best friend. Like people strive for these things, and I exist like that. Or there was always within my more like hood communities, why do you sound like that? You talk white. Or why do you're trying to seem like you're better than us? Like these kinds of things. But then in other spaces, it was recognized as some kind of like point of virtue. So I'm like, all right, maybe I can leverage this. Like there's nothing wrong with me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
work from there. So yeah, things that give me a sense of pride or a sense of achievement. Like now, if I'm speaking like just physically or from a point of vanity or whatever, like my skin is popping, my lips are popping, my hair is gorgeous. That's awesome. I love, 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 love that House of Body is in an interesting space where it's starting to take on a personality that I didn't completely give it. And it's beautiful, and people are finding its own comfort in it. And that gives me confidence in what I'm able to create. I don't have children. I don't want children, but I think this is something close. Like when you make a thing and it's like flourishing and you're like, I made that. Like I did it. Look at it out there thriving. Like that's how and I think it's displayed in more recently me finding the time to have like this self adoration for whatever the thing is. It used to always be displayed in a way that someone, something, some entity would find value in or
Mm-hmm.
be able to applaud me for in some way. And I'm not saying those things never happen, but I find myself now putting a lot more weight, a lot more value in being able to appreciate whatever the thing is for myself. And that can look a variety of different ways. Like if we go back to my hair, it looks like a dance party where like I dance to the rhythm of my locks flying around and not to the music because I can. It looks like me being able to hold one of my invoices that has the House of Bawdy logo on it, and I like cried one day. I was like, look at the thing, look at it's my name like on it. It looks like me being able to enter into spaces or virtual spaces now, and people ask me, why do you do this? Or they ask me, you know, what's the point? Why is it necessary? And me be able to iterate it in a fashion where I've been greeted with silence, because people are just like, that passion for what I'm saying and what I do and why it's necessary is so palpable that it's left people on the other end of the sentences like, oh, those moments make me proud.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. I have so many things to say, but I'm going to get to the comments because I keep getting behind. So while I'm on top of them, KK wants to know what kind of excuse, referring to the Papa John guy. Listen, he's in his own world. It's just too good. It tastes too good in his mouth. He just can't get rid of it. Janae says, I think I think for me, I had to experience my insecurities to its full extent and experience that brokenness in order to build my foundation of confidence to where it is now. It's displayed through everything I do now. Yeah, that's interesting.
There's, and I've heard people say things like that, and I can definitely relate in some ways that like eventually you get to a point where you're always stuck and beholden to what other people's concepts are of whatever the insecurity might be, or you get all the way to the bottom and you're like, just freak this. I'm doing it. I'm feeling it. I'm being it because I can't change it.
Right.
And there is this sense of beauty. I remember doing this thing that I didn't realize was like an actual real exercise people do. I was just doing it, hoping it would help when I was younger, because I got to this really depressive point where I felt as though I wasn't worthy or attractive or important or whatever, or so much of the things that were going to eventually defend or define my value was something I could produce, was something I could make, was somehow being smarter than or more vocal than or louder than or whatever the case may be, but was it something I could just look at and appreciate? And I would like stand in the mirror and I would look at myself and I would lie. Like I would straight up tell myself, like give myself compliments, but I didn't believe not one word of them. Not any single person, not any single thing like I made up. And I would get like over the top with it. And I didn't believe it, but I kept doing it. And I didn't realize I was actually teaching myself how to see myself differently. I didn't realize I was doing it like it was an accident. I was just being silly, but like I would do it on purpose. And it helped. It helped so freaking much. Now if I look in the mirror and say something wild, like I mean it. Applaud if you want to, but like, like and like it had to grow. It had to morph. I completely relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, we all have the ability to be hype man for other people. So why not just you talk to yourself negative 24 hours a day. So let's take a break and be a hype man for ourselves. And I think that's really interesting. Is goes to the because we always try to stop right before the insecurities hit to try to prevent it from happening. Yeah. So going to the edge of it and seeing what's on the other side would absolutely build that confidence and be like, oh, the world didn't end. I didn't die. They didn't leave. I didn't look bad. I didn't like it made me uncomfortable, but once I get through that other side, it's like, oh snap.
That's actually one really good reason why we offer personal shopping services for House of Bawdy. Because being able to put people in like a home party setting, there are those people who are like super excited. It's my bachelorette party. Let's fling all the toys everywhere. And like, listen, I'm here to party with you. Let's get it. However, there are also some people that I see off kind of trying to be in the corner, but you're still on the couch.
Right.
and,
Right.
and that's why I wanted to have an experience for people who want to be able to connect with themselves, but don't think they know how. Think it's odd, think it's weird, think that there's something in them that doesn't deserve that, or don't know how to match those feelings up with their partners, with their needs, or what that, like, if everybody's always dealing with their own stuff, and we all are, imagine if you're now like in romantic partnership dealing with your own stuff. You're morphing all types of upsetting situations or
Right.
pressing something or whatever. So that's one reason why we offer a service where somebody can sit down and we can have a conversation and we can sort through what is it that is a hurdle between you and your pleasure. What is it that is frustrating? What medical thing makes you not feel worthy? I mean, I remember my mom not ever really being in the best of health, having to go through amputation, things like that, and feeling like she wasn't worth her husband, my father, like looking at her like she's still the most beautiful thing walking, and she couldn't like internalize that, or would feel unattractive, or would feel like she wasn't worthy, or feel like her hair this, or her body this, or her medical condition that. But like, what happens when we sit down and we say, look, if this is the reality we're dealing with, what if I tell you it's okay? What becomes the next step? Like, what does that look like, and why is it scary? And how do we welcome the fact that you're allowed to feel like that could suck, that could feel terrible, that could feel anxiety ridden, that could feel scary, that could feel depressive, that might have been something that a partner told you, so now you feel insecure because of somebody else's crap. Like, that
Right.
might be a process that we work through. And as soon as we start to maybe unpack those things, as soon as you get external help, if it's something that's accessible to you, to start to work on those things, then we can work on, okay, now how do I feel good knowing this? How do I walk with the baggage? How do I learn to put it down? How do I pack it into a smaller package and take that bad boy with me? Like, what does that look like?
That's good. I feel like it's sometimes people are kind of afraid or they don't know how. So I'm glad that, especially in your line of business, some people are like, I don't know what I'm looking at. What am I doing? I don't think I want to be here. But if you have someone who's more welcoming, like, hey, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's just have a non-invasive conversation and figure out, hey, what's
Should
going
free.
on?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of my, those are actually my favorite people when I'm doing like events or something like that. The people who are just like,
What's happening over here?
what's that?
What's
No, don't pick it up. Don't pick it up. Don't let me touch it. I'm just asking. Those are
No, don't no. Why? First of all, you ain't got to be loud and tell everybody my business. They don't need to know I was looking at that one.
Exactly.
I just wanted to know what happens. That's it.
You press the button. Let me just watch.
Let me see what's going on. Let me see what's going on.
Very real instances, or the people who come only after the crowd disperses when I'm at events. I love
nobody. First of all, nobody needs to see me at your table. Okay, they don't need to know what's in my drawers. They don't need to know what's going on. Okay, put my stuff in the black bag, but in the paper bag in the black bag, so that they don't know that your name is on the. We're
That's
just gonna.
thing that has happened. It also shows me who the surprising audiences of shame are, like who actually like gives that to people. People disperse and they're just like, no. Do you ship? Can I ship from the table? Like, no,
Right.
I'm not walking away with that.
Right. It could be at my door in a brown box. You ain't gotta.
Yeah,
everybody needs to know.
I don't need to meet it. Or I remember older folks actually are shamed so often in these instances. And the first time I encountered it, I was actually really surprised. There was like a party going on. Everybody was super excited that I was there. Everybody's ready for the turn up. Everybody's being super excited and shameless, and it's great. And then this older woman and her friend comes over, and she's just like, I've always wondered about this. And she's asking questions. We're engaging, and here comes her daughter flying out of nowhere. And she's like, no, what are you doing? You can't touch this. Absolutely not. Takes the stuff out of her hand, puts it back. And I'm like, it's interesting because we always think that there's shame coming from a partner, shame coming from a parent, shame coming from a friend who might not have had the same kind of life experiences from all over the place. But older folks are shamed a lot, and it's not fair. Grandma ain't dead yet. Leave her alone.
Listen, go and be happy. Go, don't worry. Like people want to shame and say, oh, because I would never do. Okay, you and your pride can walk that way. Let me be happy over here. Like you don't need to try to impose your morality or whatever you feel on your high horse. Keep on stepping. Like you don't. Absolutely not.
That's what it is. She had to be confronted with a concept that like freaks her out. That all of a sudden her grandmother is a whole human outside of being her grandmother, and that was just too much for her. And I'm like, okay, but why does she have to edit herself? Because your concept of her is small. And really you can apply that outside of any kind of like sexual sense. Like you can take that and understand that who I am doesn't have to be crammed into a box that makes you uncomfortable, or that it doesn't have to be crammed into a box that makes you more comfortable.
Right.
With me. You don't have to. Grandma is a title. Grandma is a label.
Like
grandma
you're
person. That does not depend on you. You got here second, honey. Third, if you count your parents. So stop.
And that's what I think people don't understand. People come into this world, teenager, or even I remember when I was in elementary school and I was telling my mom a joke and she heard the joke. And it's funny to hear my nephews tell it. And it's like, yeah, I was about that age when I heard that joke for the first time. And I think it's new. But the world didn't just start when you were born. Your book is literally starting in the end or toward the end of somebody else's.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a whole other life that you just don't know. So I think people are just interesting when they try to put other people in. You don't know what grandma be doing. Listen, you don't know what she be doing. Just listen.
That's fine. She has my
card. Listen. Okay. Angelina said, I have gained my confidence as I grow stronger in my faith. Same. She also says, I agree, not needing validation from others as much as feeling self-achievement.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Coexist.
Yes.
Be able to like grow this whole garden in and of yourself, and nobody tells you your garden's pretty. Like it's okay for there to be both. Like it's okay for that garden to have taken work. It's okay that you had to weed that garden. It's okay that garden grows plants that you did not expect now, but we out here. I like them. And it's okay to also want someone else to see your garden and be like, oh, this is nice. Good job. I think that some people confuse self-confidence with not needing a vote of confidence from anybody else that matters to you. That's not true. If that was the case, why would we have friends? That's not, no.
Right. I absolutely agree. Like I take this podcast, for example, started with, I started by recording like a few episodes for myself, and then I scrapped most of them. And then I recorded with my sister, and then recorded with a friend, and it was just like, after a while, I realized that, I don't have to just use, like, I can use other people. I can not use, but I can have other guest spots on. Mm-hmm. And, and it's great that I can tell my family about it and they come see. But even if they don't show up, y'all still please show up. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. But even if they don't show up, like, I am very surprised that this is something that I've actually like been able to do and grow in these last like 40 weeks of doing it. And so it's just like, oh, this is cool. I get to have conversations with different people. I get to do what I like to do. on my own time, and the connections that we make without somebody having to come in and say, you know, you're doing well for me to continue from week to week. Like I get to do it because I want to do it. So regardless of, you know, numbers or people or whatever, like, yes, it's great to have an audience to do it for, but there's been so much growth in these 40 episodes that I've experienced, that it has been such a huge thing of just like, man, this is great. Like I'm able to move forward. I'm able to do this. I've had some really great guests, and I've had some not so. Hey, you're not going to get a call back, but thank you, appreciate you.
Thanks for that.
Absolutely, but it's just, but I appreciate and doing stuff like this. Like this is one of the achievements. But my thing is just like being able to express, like knowing that I'm hearing people from a different perspective, or that I'm able to converse with people without having to edit myself as much or use as much diplomacy, so that I can be as authentic as I can. Like that's a self achievement that I need. I don't need other people to tell me, you know, when you were younger, you were rough, but now, oh my gosh, like I don't really need that. You know, I don't really need that. But I know for me that I'm doing like a lot better, which speaks to KK's point, which she says, knowing what I want my future to look like, and having that goal in mind of what you're going toward is such a big thing, because there were times where I'm just like, okay, the TV's not even on at this point. I don't know if anybody paid the electric bill, but I have no idea what this is going to look like. But since in the last like 7 years, like knowing like just the simplest goal of whatever I do this year has to be bigger than last year, and being able to look back at what I've done in the last year and be like, okay, but bigger, and being able to do those things, it's been huge. So yeah, I absolutely try to I try not to get arrogant, because when I get arrogant, I start skipping steps and cutting into the process. But
that's a real thing. But I think you're good at it. I've been in plenty a talk where I'm like, how much time? Okay.
How much longer are we gonna keep this up? Oh, right. That long, huh? Oh,
I don't feel like that in our conversation. So you have a great thing going.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I appreciate conversations like these. I appreciate when we're able to have honest conversations about not just how we fit in the world, but how we plan to move forward. And even in the beginning, if y'all haven't listened to our episode yet, I would highly suggest take some time wherever podcasts are found. You know, you can always watch it on YouTube or on Facebook. Just listen to the episode, and we talk about a lot of it. It's called guilt-free pleasure, because we shouldn't feel ashamed to do things that brings us pleasure, whether it be you know, with a partner, sexual, professional, personal, whatever it is. If it brings you pleasure and it's not hurting anybody, I'm not saying to go punch little first graders in the face. What I'm saying is, if what you're doing brings you pleasure, you shouldn't feel shamed about it. Don't shame grandma. She want to feel some pleasure. It's okay. You gotta shame her. Listen, okay. You may not like it because you know you feel like you should. I mean, I know you would want to feel pleasure, but you grandma feel some pleasure.
Like it because grandma did not come to the table asking you for money. Leave grandma.
Hey, hey, that's right. That is right. Do not listen. She's not worried about your pockets. You're not worried about her pockets.
Hard. So grandma and I'll talk on our own without granddaughter messing up the vibe.
Really killing my sale. I'm trying to help a person out, trying to boost some confidence out here.
What did I do to granddaughter? What did I do? I suffer.
But like I appreciate us even having the conversations to get over this taboo of, yes, I'm human. I want to be seen not just as human, which is one of the hurdles that we talked about before we even get to sexuality, or even trying to establish what does that pleasure look like for individuals, and just not even trying to define it for everyone, but just for self. So if you haven't listened to the episode, I won't rehash the whole thing, but it is absolutely worth a listen, especially when you're talking about boundaries. You're talking about different types of conversations you can have with your partner, and even family. Because sometimes when it comes to that trust and having those close personal relationships, a lot of people can try to hop the fence.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to walk them back down and say, hey, this is where, listen, you see that fence? Yes, that's where you are. That's exactly where you are. Okay.
Know that, like, and everybody, oh, my whole computer.
Oh, okay.
I just know that I get when I enter into a room or enter into a space and I talk about pleasure and I talk about wellness and I'm throwing around the wares. Everybody's just like, this girl's just trying to get it in all the time. That's why she's here. And it's not, I mean, cool, but like, it's not. I just know, and if 2020 has taught people anything, the world's not going to get easier. It's not going to get nicer. The specific audiences that House of Bawdy highlights have always operated with this double or triple consciousness in the world. It's exhausting. It's not fair. And pleasure is just one way in which we can teach our spirits to rest, to reset, and we deserve for not everything to have to be built on this platform of struggle, of strife, of survival instinct, that we deserve to have something that feels like thriving. And if this is how it gets done, then I want to be able to have the platform that tells people you have permission to step outside of how the entire world feels in every other instance of your existence, and know that when you come into yourself, when you come into the trust with you and your partner or partners, that you are allowed to feel good there for feeling good's sake alone. There doesn't have to be a profound reason. There doesn't have to be a consequence. There doesn't have to be guilt attached to it. There doesn't have to be shame that comes before it that ruins the feel good in the first place. You're allowed the pleasure part. You're allowed the feeling good part. You're allowed the thriving part simply because you deserve it. That's it. And I really want to make sure that that is like, I want people to absolutely listen to the episode. Please, we had a dope conversation. But even if you don't, if there's nothing else to take away, that like you deserve to feel good for feeling good's sake alone. And that's enough.
Absolutely. And before we get out of here, I want everyone to know how to get in contact with you. If they do have to get some stuff shipped out, if they want to come see you at the table, slide you a business card, all that kind of stuff.
We can do it on the.
If they want to do it on the low, or if they want to shout you out in their Instagram story, just be like, listen.
Yes, so I'm House of Bawdy Bawdy on everything. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.com, all the things. And it's special to me. It's on purpose. Even exploring the website, people are like, oh, like I didn't realize that like this whole industry was not set up for me until there's like a little pocket of the world that is, and I'm like, yep, we out here. House of Bawdy is house of anything is a hard concept for people of color, for queer folks to wrap their minds around sometimes. Even for me, what was my sense of home is hard because it's never been like a physical space. And then Bawdy is by dictionary definition, it's risque, it's naughty. And I'm like, okay, we're going to take that. We're going to flip it on its head. We're going to own it in this new way. And it also is when queer folks, especially queer folks of color, especially Black queer folks, step into a space, into a lively atmosphere, a party, a place where they belong. It's how it's said, it's how it's felt. It's a cue for us. And it's that compliment to confidence that we were talking about earlier. You're serving face, you're serving Bawdy, you out here, you existing, you just gonna kill him like that? You just gonna do it? Yes, that's what House of Bawdy is. It's a nod to drag and ballroom culture because it informs so much of what's the largest of culture within Black communities, period, whether people want to recognize it or not. It and is also a special thank you there. So yeah, there's a lot in the name, so the name is the same all across the board.
Well, y'all absolutely go follow House of Bawdy. Check out the website. Even if there's not any toys or anything that you don't want to purchase or anything, there's still there's some good reading material in there.
There is.
There's blogs and stories and things of that nature.
We've got everything from like product based goodies. The erotica just got rolling out, which is very fun. It's subscription based, which is dope because a part of those subscriptions go back to support the authors who contributed to that part of the website. We've got the personal shopping services that I highlighted earlier. And this month, I'm super excited. It's very special. We've actually paired up with a Boston-based singer-songwriter and paired up items that we curated to her song, because pretty much everything on the website is named after a pop culture reference, a song, a movie, everything from Nicki Minaj to Living Single to like your old school cleaning the house jams. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's got playlists attached to it, all of that. So we paired up with Gidi Santiago, and one of her songs that really highlights being able to celebrate yourself. She'll be singing that on Sunday. We'll get a chance to sit down and talk to her and learn who she is. There's been items matched up to the vibe of her song. So there's, be it music or erotica or actual toys, or even just the wellness resources, going on there and learning a little bit more about, your health or how you exist in the world. There's so many ways to engage.
I almost forgot to mention the playlist. I don't even know how I forgot to mention the playlist. Yeah, because even if you just want to jam out to some feel good music, absolutely go to House of Bawdy.
Absolutely go to House of Bawdy. There's no purchase necessary to just feel good, and we do too much in pleasure for there to be a roadblock to everything. So yeah, all of the toys on the website that were paired up to or inspired by a song, or there was a Bad Boys reference, so we took a song from Bad Boys and put that on the playlist. Like, all of those things, you can it exists on YouTube, on SoundCloud, and on Spotify, so you can just go and like jam out to the songs also.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again. I appreciate you. KK says she's following. But thank you, Kathryn, so much again for being a part of this live, for being a part of the episode. It was such a great episode. I'll definitely be calling you to come back. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in. Going through the comments now. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Janai. Thank you, Antoinetta. Thank you, really, TT. Thank you, Honey T. Thank you, Boss Lady Denise. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you, Janai. Thank you, Denzel. Thank you. I already said Denise. Did I say everybody? I think I got everybody. If I didn't get you, put your name in the comment and I'll call you out. But thank you to everyone who I think my Aunt Lenora is actually tuning in too. Thank you, Lenora, for tuning in. Appreciate you. So yeah, I truly appreciate you. Yes, great live. Thank you, Caleb. Girl, what? But I hope that everyone, if you take away nothing else, you take away that you don't have to be guilty in getting pleasure however you want to get pleasure, for owning your space and having a right to your body without having to give it to anyone else. So with that, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Just checking the comments, making sure no one else has. Okay, cool. All right. Thank you so much, Kathryn. Y'all have a great one. We'll see you next week, this time, 8 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.